Welcome back to my channel and a brand new episode of Making Things I Can't Buy. Lately, while perusing Pinterest, I've come across a bunch of photos of a certain style of summer dress. Essentially, they're all very short, gathered, sort of multi-tier skirts with just some triangular gathered cups. As well, they tend to have spaghetti straps and sometimes some extra straps that tie around the back. I absolutely love these dresses and I totally could go out and buy one. However, all the ones I've seen online are made out of like a rayon or a linen or a really light cotton. But I see this dress in velvet. So what I have here is a bunch of stretch velvet. This one is a charcoal gray sort of silvery material. Now, typically velvet is seen as a fall or winter fabric, and that's totally understandable because it's really thick. It's thick and it's fuzzy and usually it's pretty warm. However, because this dress is so loose and short and just has the little tiny triangular cups, I think velvet will be totally fine for this application and I don't think it's gonna be too hot for the summer. Now, same as usual in all of my sewing videos, I'm gonna make one dress on camera for me and I'll make a second dress to list on the website so that you guys can buy it if you're interested. To check that out, go to the link to my official website in the description below. Now, with all of that said, let's get into the first step of making this dress, drafting the pattern. The first step of drafting this pattern is to draw out a long horizontal line. This will be my center front. From there, I will draw a perpendicular line to be my waist. Next, I'm measuring up from my waistline to where I want the bottom of the underbust band to sit. I'll decide how thick I want this band to be, and then it will get completed by coming up to a point at the center front. I'm angling this piece downwards a bit so that it sits lower on my back. Next, I'm measuring along the top of the underbust band and putting a notch where I want the outer edge of the cup to be. Using a compass, I'll draw a circle with the center point at the bust apex. Doing this allows me to see how much coverage the cup will provide. Based on that circle, I'm drawing out the general shape of the triangular cups. I'll also mark out where I want the gathers to be along the bottom edge. Next, I'll draw out approximately where I want the tiers of my skirt to land, as well as adding grain lines and labels. Finally, I'm transferring the draft to some tracing paper and making the pattern pieces. First is the cup. This piece needs to be slashed and spread open. Doing so essentially allows me to add in the extra fabric that will be gathered up. Each segment should be evenly spread out and taped down. Then I'll draw a new bottom line connecting all the segments smoothly. Next is the underbust band. This will simply be transferred and seam allowance added. To finish off, I'll jot down my skirt tier dimensions. All right, we have our pattern done, and I think this is probably the simplest pattern I've ever made on the channel so far. All we really need is one piece for the cup, of which we're gonna cut 4 because I want the cups to be self-lined, meaning that the fuzzy side of the velvet will be on the outside of the cup and on the inside against the body as well. That, I think, will give it a little bit more body and coverage, and it will also just be really comfortable. Also self-lined is the piece that's gonna go underneath that, this piece here. Now, outside of those 2 pieces, all I have is a 2-tiered skirt. However, the skirt is super simple. It's just a couple of rectangles. So all I've done for that, as opposed to wasting a bunch of paper, is write out the measurements for my rectangles on a sticky note. So when I go to cut out the fabric, all I'm gonna do is take some chalk and a ruler, measure it out, pin it together, and cut it. Super simple, cutting to the chase, like I said, saving pattern paper. Let's go ahead and do that. The most important aspect of cutting velvet is to make sure that all the pieces are cut with the nap going the same direction. This means that if you brush your hand up the fabric on every piece, it will feel smooth. Conversely, if you brush your hand down on any of the pieces, they will all feel rough. I'm cutting all 4 cut pieces first, doing my best to cut them from this large scrap piece. As well, I'm cutting the notches at the bottom of each cup. These tell me where to gather. Next up is the underbust pieces cut on the fold. I also realized I forgot to add notches on the cut pieces where the ties at the side will be placed. So I'm quickly marking that on the pattern piece and then cutting notches on all 4 cut pieces. Next, I am laying the velvet out as smoothly as possible, folded in half so that I can cut the skirt pieces. It's really important that while chalking these out, I make sure all angles are exactly 90 degrees. This will ensure that each skirt layer is a perfect rectangle. For the bottom tier of the skirt, I'm cutting it the whole width of the fabric and then just trimming off the selvage so that I get the widest single piece possible. Alright you guys, we have all of our pieces cut out and ready to go. Something that I didn't mention at the beginning was the material that I bought for the straps. This is just a super simple, like string almost. I bought it because I wanted the straps to be very, very thin, like the thinnest possible spaghetti straps, but I also wanted them to be just as shiny as the velvet and really match. So I actually went online to Etsy and specifically ordered this sort of cord or string to use as my straps. With all of these pieces cut out and prepped, we can finally move on to my favorite part of the whole entire process, the sewing. The first step of sewing is to take my strap material and cut it into 4 equal pieces. These will then get tacked to the cut pieces, one at the very top and then one at the side where I put those notches earlier. After that, I will run a basting stitch along the bottom of each cup between the 2 notches. A basting stitch is a very long stitch that can be easily removed. Once I've done that on all 4 cut pieces, I will pull on the thread tails to cause the fabric to bunch up. This is how I will create all the gathers in this dress. After all cups have been gathered, I will pair them up, right sides together. I'll sew along the top 2 sides, then flip the cut piece right side out. The last step to prepping these cups is to sew along the bottom edge. This will hold the 2 layers together to make the next step easier and will also allow me to control the gathers and lock them down in a very even manner. I'll then repeat this process on the other cup. Now that the cut pieces are ready to go, I'll prep the underbust bands by sewing up the center back seam. Then I'm going to sandwich the cups in between both underbust pieces, right sides together. First, I'll just sew the center front area, because this is the most important and also tricky part. I want this point to be nice and sharp and even. Once I verify that the center point looks good, I'll sew the underbust bands together the whole way around, completely encasing the bottom edges of the cups. The underbust pieces will then be flipped down, wrong sides together, and sewn along the bottom edge all the way around to make the next step easier. To prep the skirt pieces, I need to first sew up the center back seams. Then I'll finish them with the serger. Unfortunately, I have to use black serging thread because I just don't have any way to acquire gray right now. After that, I'll run a basting stitch along the whole top edge of both skirt tiers. In the same manner as before, I'll pull on those thread tails to scrunch up the fabric. Once that is done on both skirt pieces, I'll sew the lower one to the upper one, making sure the gathers are as even as possible the whole way around. Next, I will attach the skirt to the bodice, once again keeping the gathers as even as possible. The dress is technically complete now, but needs some finishing. I'll serge the 2 gathered seams I just sewed, as well as the hem. Off camera, I tried on the dress and realized the bottom tier was a bit too long, so I'll just quickly trim it and reserge it. The last and final step is to turn up the hem a ½ inch and sew the whole way around. Alright guys, so we have in front of me the fully completed dress. I'm I'm super happy with how it came out. I didn't really end up having to make any adjustments to the pattern while sewing, except I shortened this last tier of the skirt. I really wanted it to be like a mini dress, so quite short, and I ended up taking about 1.5 inches off the hem. That of course is not a problem at all because I'd always rather start with a skirt longer than I want it to be and then be able to trim it versus making it too short and then you can't really add. Now with this fully completed, I'm just gonna go ahead and sew up the black velvet dress, which will be listed on the store, and next time you see me, we'll be showing off both. The first way I styled the dress is just with some black strappy sandals and some silver jewelry. This is how I'll be wearing it for summer. The second way I styled the dress is for winter. I added a black turtleneck underneath and then paired it with some fishnet stockings in Doc Martens. Lastly, we have the black version of the dress. I paired this with some black and tan platform sandals and kept the same silver jewelry. I think this is a super effortless going out look. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed that video. I always love the styling portion of these sewing videos. It's so much fun once I make something to style it up in a bunch of different ways and just putting different accessories on top and creating different looks. If you guys really love the dress and you enjoyed watching me make it, then you can feel good about purchasing it because it'll A, go to support a creator, and B, you'll know exactly how and where it was made. I'll have the black velvet dress available in a couple of different sizes on my website, so you can check that out at the link in the description below. As well in the description, you can find my social medias and my Patreon. Thank you guys so much for watching this video, and I'll see you all in the next one.